All right, sorry about that. Somebody walked in the house. I couldn't bear to see my daddy suffer, so early next morning I took off to look for water. But although I searched and searched, I couldn't even find a splash or a puddle. After a while, I got so tuckered out, I plopped down under an old sagebrush. Ouch, I yelled, landing on something hard. But when I saw what it was, I whooped for joy. It was my very own boot. What's more, it still had some water in it from all those melted hailstones. That was our lucky day. Let me tell you, we found every one of Mama's pots and pans spread out across the sand. They all had a few drops of water in them too, just enough to get Daddy's trees to the next water hole before they all keeled over. My, that first sip of water sure tasted good, even if I did have to wait my turn behind some Baldwin apples. Oh, and I'm pleased to say our wagon and all the boots turned up too, all except one. I reckon that nasty wind blew my left boot clear to the other side of the moon. And if it should happen to drop out of the sky on your head one of these days, I sure appreciate you sending it to me along the way. Well, we kept on going past Courthouse Rock, Chimney Rock, and Independence Rock, and lots of other rocks that didn't have names. We climbed up rocks and down rocks, and at last we reached the Columbia River. So all these rocks that she's talking about, just as a little side note, I know you guys have heard about the Oregon Trail, but along the way there were certain rocks that had certain shapes, and that's where they got the name. Like one rock looked like a chimney, so they called it Chimney Rock, just so you understand that reference. Just 100 miles to go. Whew, still a lot. But time was running out. Our little trees had almost drowned in the river, got pounded by hailstones, and got withered by drought. How much more could they take? And now we were set for a showdown with the worst varmint of all, Jack Frost. Oh, I already spied him sneaking around our campsite, brushing the cottonwoods with his cold white tongue, but I wasn't about to let him get close to my daddy's apples. So that night I made a big fire and sat by it, waiting for Jack Frost to show himself. Sure enough, as soon as the moon came up, I spotted that old good-for-nothing slinking across the meadow, heading straight for the sweet Junes. You can see Jack Frost, right? It's the cold air coming in. I got ready to fight. Jack Frost came at me, turning the ground so cold my toes went numb, but I didn't give up. I grabbed a flaming stick and threw it right at him. Before you could say Peter Piper picked a peck of pretty pimpins, that low-down scoundrel was hightailing it out of there, heading straight for Walla Walla, Washington. "I'm mighty grateful, Delicious," said Daddy as he scrutinized his sweeties the next morning. "Thanks to you, even the sweets stayed snug. We were nice and cozy, too," added Mom, checking on the children. Sure enough, Daddy's trees survived, just as they'd come across the plains in a swanky carriage. We floated them on boats down the mighty Columbia to a pretty place near Portland. Then we planted them in the sweet Oregon dirt. At last. Dookie, I'll be with you in a second. Gold was discovered in California not long after, and thousands of people rushed there to seek their fortunes. But not us. We already had our fortune. Those apples, peaches, pears, plums, and grapes made us richer than any prospector. We were happier, too. After all, apples taste a whole lot better than gold. As for my daddy, he was always sweet as peach. He and Mama loved happily to a ripe old age. Would you stop, Duke? Daddy never forgot my brave deeds on the trail. Why, as soon as he sold his first bushel of apples, he brought me the prettiest pair of boots you ever saw. "Delicious," said Daddy, "you'll always be the apple of my eye." Oh, I'm so sorry about the dog. All right. I hope you enjoyed that, even with the chaos. Bye, guys.